and welcome to today's session. As said before, today we are going to start with the Act 1, Scene 2 of the play The Tempest. And in the introductory session, I had already explained you that in order to understand this particular scene in a better way, we can divide the whole scene into three main parts. The first part is Prospero's tale to Miranda. The second part is introduction of Ariel and Caliban. And the third part is the initial meeting between Ferdinand and Miranda and their falling in love at the first sight. Now the first two parts of this scene, that is Prospero's tale to Miranda and the introduction of Ariel and Caliban, provide a flashback to previous events, explaining how the play's current situation came to be. While the third part of this scene provides the first contact between the young couple, that is Miranda and Ferdinand, and this particular part will form the romantic plot of that play. So it is concerned with the romantic interest of the play. Now this scene 2 takes place on the island before Prospero's cell, and here Prospero and Miranda, they are in a conversation with each other. So we see the scene of action is the humble dwelling of Prospero, means in front of Prospero's cell on the island, and in Prospero and Miranda enter on the stage. Now here Miranda is taken aback, is astonished, surprised to see the dire spectacle or the tempest that was aroused in the sea. And she is overtaken by strong emotions. She feels sympathetic and pity for the royal ship as well as the people who were on board on that ship. And therefore here she makes the request to her father that her father must subside the storm. And this also gives a hint. The scene actually opens with the speech of Miranda, and in the beginning of this scene we are introduced to the romantic heroine of the play, who is very compassionate, sympathetic at heart, and it shows us the virtue of Miranda, and at the same time it also throws light on the atmosphere or the setting of the scene, and also the atmosphere of the sea. So here Miranda says, "If by your art, my dearest father, you have put the wild waters in this roar, allay them." So she is aware of the fact that her father is a magician and he has magical powers. He has the ability to create such a storm and also to subside it. So therefore Miranda suspects, or she is under the impression, that it is probable that her father might have aroused that tempest in the sea by the use of his magic or by his magical powers. And that is the reason why she is requesting her father to subside those waves, to calm the sea waves again. And then she goes on to describe the atmosphere. She says, "The sky, it seems, would pour down stinking pitch." Okay, stinking pitch. Stinking means something that is very foul in smelling, and pitch, black tar like substance. So she says that it seems that the sky would rain down a flood of rain as black and stinking as pitch. It is very dark. The sky is cast with the dark clouds, and it suggests that the sky is going to pour down rain as black and stinking as pitch. But that the sea, mounting to the welkin's cheek, the sea here refers to the sea waves. Welkin's cheek is a reference to the sky. So it appears that the sea waves are rising so high as if they are trying to strike against the face of the sky to put out the fire. Dashes the fire out means there is thundering, there is lightning. So this is what she describes the atmosphere, that it is so dark that the sky appears to be as dark as tar, as black as tar, and it appears that the sky would rain down a flood of rain that would be as black and stinking as pitch or tar. And the waves of the sea are so turbulent, they are rising so high as if they are trying to strike against the face of the sky, and there is thundering and lightning which makes the atmosphere even more scary and fearful. And then Miranda says, "Oh, I have suffered with those I saw suffer." Okay. So she has suffered with those people whom she had seen suffering. Actually, when the ship was being tossed aside by the waves, when the ship was being drifted aside to the shore because of the strong waves of the sea, Miranda at that particular time was standing at the shores. She was able to see that dire spectacle. And the suffering of the people on board on that ship has made Miranda also equally suffer, which indicates that she feels pity for those passengers on board on that ship, and she feels sympathetic for them. She says, "A brave vessel who had no doubt some noble creature in her, dashed all to pieces." So the vessel, the ship, was no doubt a splendid one. So it was the royal ship carrying royal passengers. So since it was the royal ship, it was richly decorated with the banners and all things. So therefore she says that the ship appeared to be very splendid. And it is clearly suggestive of the fact that the ship had some noble men, royal people on board. But that ship is wrecked, it is dashed to pieces, it is broken to pieces. Oh, the cry did knock against my very heart. Poor souls, they perished. Oh, the cry means the frantic cry of the passengers who were on board on that ship. Their cries deeply grieved the heart of Miranda. And she addresses to those people as poor souls. She refers to them as poor souls because all of them perished in the sea. And then she wishes, she hopes, that had I been any god of power, I would have sunk the sea beneath the earth, or ere it should the good ship so have swallowed and the frothing souls within her. She says that if she had been a powerful god, she would have driven the sea to the bottom of the earth before it could devour the ship with all its passengers. So in these lines, Miranda says that she has suffered as much as the passengers on board on that ship had suffered. And she describes the ship that it was a splendid and a beautiful ship, and undoubtedly it had some noble persons, passengers on board, when it got wrecked. The cries and the lamentations of the passengers had pierced her heart and aroused her deepest sympathy for those passengers. The unfortunate men on board the ship must all have been drowned in the sea. That is what Miranda feels. And then she goes on to say that if she had possessed some supernatural powers, if she had the power of God, she would not have allowed the sea to devour, to swallow those men. If she had been a powerful God, she would have buried the sea in the earth. She would have buried those violent, turbulent waves of the sea under the earth, but would not have allowed the sea to swallow the ship and the passengers which the ship was carrying. Now these lines are important because they throw light on the character of Miranda. Her description of the disaster which she has witnessed shows not only her capacity for keen observation but also her deeply sympathetic nature. You see, the way she gives a detailed description of the ship, the atmosphere, the tempest, and how the people were frantically crying, how the people were perished in the sea. So this is a detailed description. This clearly indicates that Miranda was minutely observing all that spectacle. So this shows her capacity for keen observation and also reflects the sympathetic nature of Miranda. But we must know that she is young. Being young, she is inexperienced. So being an inexperienced young girl, it was but natural for her to have felt so deeply touched by the dire spectacle of a ship sinking or drowning in the sea with all the passengers on board. Her pitying heart, her sympathetic nature greatly endears the readers to her. In fact, in the first speech itself, Miranda is introduced to us, and she makes a position in the heart of the readers as a kind and a sympathetic lady. The speech begins with the request to her father to subdue the tempest which was still raging upon the sea, and her request is then followed by the lines of Prospero. So to this request of Miranda, Prospero says, "Be collected. Now no more amazement. Tell your piteous heart there is no harm done." So Prospero, like a kind, generous father, he could not see his daughter in such a disturbed state, in such troubled state of mind. Therefore, Prospero tries to console Miranda and tells Miranda that she must calm herself. She must calm down. And she should not be perturbed any further. She should not be alarmed any further. And he tells Miranda to try to make her sympathetic heart understand that there was no harm done. So though the tempest was aroused in the sea, though it appeared that the ship has been wrecked, though it seemed that all the men on board on that ship have been perished, but Prospero assures that no harm was done to anyone. Then Miranda, "Oh, woe the day. Okay, oh, what a woeful day it is. What a miserable day." Why? Because she is still thinking about the safety, about those people who were on board on that ship. And Prospero reassures her, no harm. There has been no harm done. "I have done nothing but in care of thee." Prospero explains to Miranda that all those things which he has done for the sake of Miranda, for Miranda's good. Because Miranda is ignorant of what she actually was. So she does not know which place Prospero is actually from. And she does not know that Prospero deserves much higher. He belongs to a higher birth, he belongs to a higher social rank than what Prospero is at the present moment. At the present moment, he is the master of a full poor self. He is dwelling in the humble place in the island. And he is just the father of Miranda. But Prospero is not only this, he is much more than this. He deserves much better than this. His greatness does not consist only in being the honor of a poor self or in being the father of Miranda. He was the Duke of Milan. So he was of much higher birth and much higher social rank. And Miranda is surprised the moment she hears this. She says, more to know did never meddle with my thought. So it never entered into her mind that there is something more to know for her. Then Prospero says, it is time I should inform thee further. Lend thy hand and pluck my magic garments from me. So lays down his robe. Here lays down his robe means he lays down his cloak, maybe the magical robe which he was wearing. So this indicates that Prospero's magic consisted in his magical robe. So it can be inferred that Prospero asked Miranda to help him lay down his cloak because Prospero wanted to speak to Miranda not like a magician but like a caring and affectionate father. So when he keeps down his cloak, magical cloak, he addresses the clock, lie there my art. Lie there my art. Here art refers to magic. Okay. So he keeps his magic aside and speaks to Miranda like a caring and affectionate father. He says, wipe thou thine eyes, have comfort. The direful spectacle of the wreck which touched the very virtue of compassion in thee, I have with such provisions in mine art so safely ordered that there is no soul, no, not so much perdition as an hair betted to any creature in the vessel which thou hadst cry, which thou sawest sink. So he tells Miranda that Miranda must try to console himself, must try to calm down, must wipe her tears, and then he discloses to Miranda that the dire spectacle of the tempest which Miranda has witnessed, and the fact that Miranda saw the ship being wrecked, the passengers on board that ship sinking, all those things have been aroused by Prospero by making use of his magical art. So that tempest is aroused by Prospero by his magical art in such a way, in such orderly manner, in such a well arranged and well planned way that not even a single soul, not even the perdition as an hair means not even the troubled people, they have suffered even the loss of a hair. So they have not suffered any injury even as the loss of a single hair. And therefore Prospero tells Miranda to calm down, to sit down, and now he tells Miranda that he is going to tell Miranda something further. He is going to disclose to Miranda about his previous life. And Miranda then tells Prospero that often in the past he has tried to tell her about his past life, but he has always stopped Miranda from asking any questions. And whenever Miranda was questioning, whenever she was curious to know about Prospero's past life, he did not pay any attention to the bootless inquisitions of Miranda. To the bootless inquisitions means to the futile questioning of Miranda, and he just used to tell Miranda, stay not yet. Means he would tell Miranda everything when the right time comes. And now Prospero says that the time has come. The very minute the time bids now Prospero to open his lips and tell Miranda about his past life. So therefore he tells Miranda that Miranda must listen to his story very attentively and keenly. And he asked Miranda at that particular time if Miranda could recall the time before they started living in the island. And out to means at that particular time when Miranda was just 3 years old. And Miranda answered in affirmative that yes, she could recall. Then Prospero inquired that what exactly could she recall? What does he remember about that time? So if she could recall any house or any person, or if she has the image of anything in her mind about her past life, then Miranda says that it is far off. Means she remembers, she is able to recollect, but her recollection is rather far off, and it seems like a dream to her than any definite act. And she tells Prospero that once she remembers that once she used to have 4 or 5 maids to attend upon her. Then Prospero says, thou hadst, and more. It is not only that, Prospero tells Miranda that it is not only that she had 4 or 5 maids to attend upon her, but she had even more. But at the same time, Prospero is surprised that how could Miranda still remember that? Because the time when they left that dukedom of Milan, Miranda was just 3 years old. And Prospero inquired Miranda that if she could remember anything else from the dark depths of time, if she could recall anything from the dark, backward and abyss of time. Abyss means the chasm of time. If she could recall anything from the dark depths of time, if she could remember anything before she came to that island. In response to that, Miranda says that she cannot remember anything else. So she remembers only the fact that she had 4 to 5 maids who used to attend upon her. Besides that, she could not recall anything else. And it is then that Prospero goes on to narrate to Miranda the story of his past life. And this story is important for us to understand because the present plot of the play is the outcome of the incidents of the past. So that we'll be doing in the live interactive session. So please join that live interactive session. Thank you for watching the video and stay blessed.